So for me, this is what it is. There are these three primary axes. There is the heart, there is the mind, and there is the body. These are some things that are inside you. These are like our faculties. And actually, a lot of the integration is achieved by these three combo axes, these combination axes. So these are just for people who are interested in science. These three, red, green, and blue, are the primary colors of light. And these other three colors, magenta, yellow, and cyan, are the colors that are produced by combining these lights. So for example, art is like using your mind and heart in order to produce something that really touches your heart and that is inspiring to you. So poetry is right here in the magenta area. Kinship or family is when you bring your heart, engage your heart with your body in a group of people where you develop, this is family, friendships on a small scale of people whom you really care about. And love is what the ruling principle here is in the yellow. When you bring together the mind and the body on a very large scale of saying what is possible, I call it the economy. And there, what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, okay, what can be done across all people, across all time, across all space? What is possible to plan out and produce? So those are the things, but art is in the domain of this. And so this I find very useful way of seeing various patterns. I would love to have any questions, any comments on this diagram, whether you find it useful, anything. We'll start with Jenny. Jenny.
Oh, yeah, it was something else. I'm sorry. The economy, how does that fit in?
That's the most complex thing and the one that I understand the least. It is mostly about, achieving justice, basically. What kind of society do you need in order to achieve justice across a large population of people who do not know each other? This is what law is about in the beginning. Like that was the formulation, Hammurabi, Moses, followed by Roman laws, followed by the Declaration of Independence, Constitution. You're trying to come up with systems. This is about how companies need to be organized so that everybody is motivated to produce. So this is something, and it is the cause of all the great prosperity that we have. So we have the leisure to be talking about poetry, and that is given to us by achievement here. The technology itself is a part of that. So that's what, and it's the most complicated thing. So that's how I think about it.
So you developed this diagram?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Can I'm going to add to the conversation, so I'm not negating, I'm adding. I just wanted, Leonard Cohen's song Anthem, ring the bells that still can ring, forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So we can strive for all that, but anyway, I can't say it better than he has. We're all broken, but that's how the light gets in. So once the light gets in, then we can move forward.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else? Any comments? Let's see. It's going to be Maritza followed by Mike. Maritza.
For me, I like the I like the, I'd mentioned earlier, I like the kaleidoscope aspect of it, the focusing in and then focusing back up. I think we saw that a little bit in our point in the two collaborative poems today, the shift in focus of, are we going to be looking very, very small in one frame, or are we going to expand the view to look a little bit wider? And I can see that there in the diagram you presented to us today. In several of those aspects, I think they are like you don't have some of the other aspects on the one you just drew up now, but it's like the smaller subcomponents that make that larger component are all presented. And it's interesting to see you throw that up after having read the collaborative poems, because this is what came from inside of people for making a poem about the concept of integration. And many of those aspects are verbally presented in the poem. You're using a more succinct one word, but we could pull out so many different words from each of the poems and place them in different components within that hexagon, which is kind of neat.
Excellent. I have put it as a background. Is it, are you seeing it the right side up? You're able to read it correctly, or is it backwards?
It's a little tiny.
No, but is it backwards or is it right?
It's
art,
right.
It's
It's perfect. When you're speaking and you're spotlighted,
Yeah.
I can see the whole thing. It's actually quite nice.
Okay.
Oh, you have it on speaker view. Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you put it on,
put him on presenter view, or what is it? Speaker view. And you can see it very nicely.
Is it okay? All right. So I just want to make sure that I have place for my head, that it doesn't, it's not like a halo or anything like that.
But if you do that, Shrikant, it does kind of get in the way. Don't do that.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Next up is going to, and any comments? So Mike, followed by Joel. Mike.
Yeah, I like Maritza's idea of taking, using poetry, for example, and then trying to plug it into what you have there, like taking our own interpretation of any subject matter and putting it into that diagram. this is the first time I'm seeing it, but earlier in the day, in the meetup, I was thinking just specifically of mind, spirit, and body. And I had mentioned, I don't know, maybe about 2 months ago, I went back to church, and I've been going somewhat regularly. And I realized that I'm actually engaging all three. So the mind, I had gone to Catholic school for 10 years when I was young, through grade school. So when I'm in church, I'm not always engaged in the sacraments, but I am at times thinking about the logic and the what it is I'm doing with my time. I'm using my memory to go back in time and what religion meant to me then and what it does now. In terms of my spirit, well, then obviously, if there's a reconnection going to church, I'm engaging my spirit. I love to go just to hear the priests say, give each other the sign of peace. So post-COVID, just having the ability to wave to somebody that I don't know is engaging my spirit in a great way. I listen to harmony. There is one priest in particular who is fluent in German, but speaks with an incredibly gorgeous Italian accent, and then sings beautifully. And just some of these very simple, like hallelujah, for example, it's one word, but just the way that is sung in church in harmony, the spirit just explodes. And then in terms of the body, it forces me to sit with my back straight. There are 2 or 3 times during the Mass that I'm asked to kneel, and I'm conscious of my body. Where is my back when I'm kneeling? I remember being a kid in Catholic school and being slumped and not wanting to kneel, because if I was going to kneel, it put pressure on my back. So we would all slump. And when I'm standing during the Mass, I'm aware, as if, like what happens to you in the military, or if you study a martial art, you are aware of your posture, because they really all connect. It's a sign of respect if you're kneeling a certain way and your head is up and you're listening, etc. So just earlier in the meetup, me revisiting church fit very, very nicely into mind, spirit, and body. And I'm going to take that same approach with your diagram. I already took a screenshot of that and I'll let you know if I'm able to plug that into yours as well.
Absolutely. I'll send you the presentation and a more detailed version of the diagram. But this is a very interesting point, because I went to the Catholic Mass. I went to the Tridentine kind of Latin Mass, the traditional one. And it's very interesting of how the Mass itself uses this integration. Words are being spoken. There's meaning, which is addressing your mind, but it is being done in a context which is so rich in all the senses. You know, you have the music, you have the incense, you have other people. So it is not just you reading a book. You're surrounded by all these people. You are going from standing up to sitting down to kneeling progressively. You are listening, and then you are singing. So it's full body experience in every way. You, of course, you know, the culmination is the Eucharist, where you have the eating of the bread. And so it's very powerful demonstration of how all of these things come together. Like in John 4, we saw, you hear the word, that is engage the mind. You love it, that is engage the heart. And then you walk, actually move to create the community. So I think all of that, you can see it in these institutions. And one of the reasons that these institutions have survived as long as they have is that they actually have integrated these ideas into daily life, so that you focus on those ideas, feel the right way about it, act the right way. You do that individually, and you do that with people towards whom you feel kinship. So you're actually building a community in that. So excellent observations. Next up is Joel.
Hi, I'm just really, it's my first time, but I want to say that I'm really enjoying this, and I can really relate to Mike. I was raised a Catholic, and then I left the church for a little bit, but I really felt that I needed to go back. And the whole idea of mind, body and heart, as you said it so right, just like going to church and the whole process of praying and, like being in community and having people to pray for you, like is just, I might be biased because, I was raised Catholic, but I do think that it really enables like everyone to be less prone to like mental health issues, or be less prone to, because nowadays, like we're speaking about a lot of mental health issues, and the biggest problem I think in our day and age is because a lot of people are lonely, and they feel a lot of loneliness, and we don't have actual, we live in a society where like everything is like going so fast, and we don't have the time to just pause and, think about, like, for example, like for me, it's prayer, or, being in community, and just the idea of, like having all these areas in our lives, come together, like the mind, the body, and the heart. If we don't take that time for ourselves, then like, I think there's a missing piece. And somebody actually, I think, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Joseph. He spoke about like imbalance, right? How if there's one puzzle missing, then you're like, you're creating an imbalance. which is really true, because we need all of them to be together so that we can be, live a healthier lifestyle, be, just be a better version of ourselves, pretty much. So yeah, I just think for me personally, on a spiritual sense, just having that actually helped me with a whole, mind and body and heart, like to come together. Because I did leave the church and I wasn't practicing the faith. And then when I went back, I saw the real difference it made in my life.
Mhm.
And recently, actually, a friend of mine who never knew about religion and never thought about religion, and he decided that he wanted to explore the Bible. And so he read the Bible, and he found that this had meaning to him, right? This actually gave him meaning. So yeah, sorry, I don't know if people are religious in this group.
Wonderful. No,
I
let
just
me
wanna say-
let me address that. Fantastic points. So let me address it. So in this group, I mean, I would say several things. So you're speaking actually of many issues that most people in modern America face. They usually don't talk about it as explicitly as you're doing, but many people face this. What has happened is that the modern world is very fragmented. People get focused on kind of individual things and they lose track of the big picture. And we actually need that. We need like an integration. And traditionally, religion used to provide it. That was the idea of God, where everything kind of led to God. So another way of looking at it is that you need morality. You need an ethical ideal of saying what is meaningful, and that's what I'm going towards. Now, about our group is that there are people here who are not religious, and there are people here who are religious. There are people who are here who are religious but don't actually go to church or a temple or anything like that. But at the same time, they're spiritual in the sense that they are really trying to understand who they are, and they're trying to be the best person that they can be. So I will again describe it. I've been thinking about the same things using the concepts that we've been discussing. So if you see this, I call it, life as a radiant hexagon. So this hexagon that you see, which is full of light here, that is the ideal life. That is your ideal life. So think of that as your ideal life. Okay. Now, what happens is that we can actually have feelings. We can get attached to some feelings, which will take us away from it. We can get attached to some thoughts that can take us away from it. We can get attached to some material things that can take us away. We can do some things habitually that can take us away. We can have human interactions that are not really going towards the center. The core idea in all religions, including the Bible and everything else, several people have brought up the Bible. So let's talk about the Bible. Okay. The idea is that the God is right here in the center. And this life, where this hexagon is basically life focused on God, focused on the truth, focused on goodness, focused on the ideal. Basically, the grace of God is kind of coming out from the center towards you, and your love of God, the Holy Spirit, is taking you back to the center. Throughout history, this has been called virtue. Aristotle would call this virtue. What you're doing is being virtuous. You're accepting reality, accepting nature, your own nature, and nature of others, and nature of the world, and you are acting in accordance with it. So this is about virtue. So virtue, if you look at these blue, cyan, and green, that's what the classical virtues focused on. They talked about wisdom or prudence, not just random thoughts. Modern people think about kind of, hey, I have a new idea. The ancient thought, the scribal thought is very integrative. You say, is this wisdom? So it is an integrated way of looking at thought. Similarly, this is about justice. What's the right thing to do? What's the right way to treat people? That's what you're focused on. That's the virtue of justice. This is the virtue of courage. Are you going to do what you think you should be doing? Are you going to take the hits for doing that? So the ancient virtues focused on this. The virtues that New Testament adds are these virtues of red, yellow, and magenta. The red is about devotion. It's the faith, it's the belief in God, it's the love of God. This love, yellow, is the love of the fellows. It's the kinship. It is the thing that builds the church. It is the lesson that we talked about we're studying John 13, the new commandment, that you love one another. That's what this is about. And this is about hope. This is about inspiration, beauty. That's what art does. Art shows you what is possible. So these three are the Christian virtues: faith, hope, and charity. And these three are the classical virtues. But all of these together are virtues. And the way in which virtue is thought of, and this is something that you see all the great philosophers of the ancient world thinking about, is that, is virtue one or is it many? And the answer is yes. It's the idea of one in the many. It's many integrating into the one. They're all focused on this. Wisdom, and they're connected. They overflow. The way in which Aquinas talks about it is that virtues overflow into one another. And that's how this virtuous hexagon is filled with light. The light is coming from the universal principles that are driving everything in the world. This is the light coming out from the center into your life. And then it is the love and your commitment to doing the right thing, to truth, that is moving you from here to there. If you don't do that, then you drift. It is very easy to drift away from the center into the periphery. So that's what I would say. Let's see. Next up is Joe, followed by Joel. Joel. Yeah, Joel.
Yeah, I forget what I was going to say, but I mean, that's primarily because I was following along with what you were just talking about. What I really like about this more than anything is that it really kind of focuses like, okay, what is real and what isn't? Like, what's really substantive and what's not? And I think your example of thoughts just now was a really good example. A lot of people have thoughts, but is it actually wisdom? Is it really willing? Is it something you should be acting on? Is it something that is in accordance with your values? The other part is that this really gives you a framework to state your values and to put them somewhere. And if you really want to manage yourself closer to your values, to your principles, that you have listed out clearly, but then you also have what takes you away from those values and what takes you away from those principles. And once you know both of those, then you start to integrate from there. You can develop habits that bring you closer to your core and allow you to, one, become more self-aware, which I think is the most important thing, because if you're not self-aware, then you can make a fool of yourself. And then the other part is that you start to really manage yourself and accept. This is what I was going back to a little bit, or what I was saying a little bit earlier, but going back to is this idea that you accept, like, this is who you are, and then you're going to manage yourself best to get to your core. And thinking through this process is actually, it's a really important exercise, I think, for anyone, as far as, especially when it comes to something like evaluating your thoughts, because I think that sometimes, sometimes people make their thoughts real, and they're not necessarily accurate depictions of reality, and they're certainly not wise. So it's an excellent model. I mean, I really do like this a lot. And I think that as we were graphing it out this weekend, with the actual, the numbers, that actually brought it like a spider graph that was really, really effective as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. I want to point out just one thing, this point about integration. Just as you're saying, like, wisdom is integrated thought. It is like bringing everything together. You would not say that somebody is wise unless they know the value of each of the thought, and it's all put together. But you see that it's true for all of the virtues. Like, the people have human interaction, but only if there is love that is going to make that interaction be really life-giving. There are people who have all kinds of feelings, but only when they have this devotion, like the devotion of a mother to an infant. Yes, the mother has many different emotions, but she's committed to the infant. That's what devotion is. Similarly, there are people having all kinds of expressions, but beauty is an integrated form of expression. Similarly, there are all kinds of actions, but there is an issue of, are you going to have the courage to do the right thing? So that means do the effort, take the risk in order to bring everything together. Yes, people are interested in individual material things, focused on individual tasks that needs to be done. But when you're saying that I want to be just, I want to do things which are right, you're bringing all of the things that you know about actions together. So integration is all inside this, and disintegration is all outside this. And this is true of each of these 6 axes. Joe, go ahead. And then it'll be Joel.
Just really quickly, they're all interrelated too. I mean, in the sense that if you're on the good side, right, then, and you're all the way out there, it's hard to be on the love side, like to be within the parameters that within your core on the love side, as opposed to being in the human interactions. So the further you're out, the further the connections are you're going to see that you're away from, like, they're all related.
Exactly.
When it's a very interesting model. So there are practical examples of this, and I've always used the one cannot be, you can't be charitable without being just, right? So that relates to human interactions. So love, you can't love without being just, right? Because so that there's this connectedness between those two. And there are practical examples. Again, I mean, I can provide ones, but I don't want to go into them.
Yeah,
but
no, absolutely. That's a fantastic point. But the point I want to make is that, just want to point out that this integration is there inside here. When you go outside, when you turn your back on the integration, you're saying, okay, I'm not really trying to be virtuous, then your thoughts start to depart from your feelings. So the further out, once you step out and turn your back on this integration, then there is no integration between this. So the circular integration and the integration, this radial integration, are together. So the radial integration of going back and forth between the spirit and matter, between function and form, between the living force and the way in which it is expressed, that is what keeps it alive. It is integrated this way, radially, and it is integrated this way, together in the same way. When you go out here, it is disintegrated from the center. You're turning your back on the center, and consequently, you are disintegrated from these other things as well. Wonderful. So Joe, I really look forward to exploring this further. I think we have just begun this conversation. I'm just putting things down. We are just going to go through a lot here. Next up is, firstly, Joey, tell me how to pronounce your name.
It's French. It's Joel.
Joel. Okay. Can you say it one more time?
Joel, but
Joel.
the French way is Joel. But yeah, it's gonna be too hard sometimes for people to say.
Sure.
Joel, you can say Joel. Yeah. I found it so like the the picture around like the inner. I really found that was really nice to have that diagram showing the inner, and the outer. So, and it got me thinking of how, like you said, the more you go inner, the more you can actually form deep connections and deep relationships. The more you go outer, it will always be on the surface level and relationships won't be able to be created. So the idea of like connecting with someone, like feelings, for example, right? Like it has to be a deeper feeling so that you can actually connect with the person. And in reality, like all human beings, we are longing for connections. Doesn't matter, like we all long for connections, and if we don't have the inner part, we are not able to connect with one another, because it's through, for example, I'm just going to give you a quick example. I don't want to take too much time, but
just quick, go ahead.
For example, like let's say if you're going through something really tough, like I don't know, like somebody passed away in your family, for example, and for you to be able to process that grief, if you don't have other people around you that you can actually talk about this and and process this, then you are left on your own. And when you share your story, you share your experiences, you are able to connect more with other people, because chances are other people also experience death in their life. Nobody is actually spared of that, because it's part of life, right?
Sure. Let me go ahead and respond to that.
Yeah.
So we did a meetup on John 13, right? John 13, the core of the message there, this is the point where Jesus starts to wash his disciples' feet. And what does that mean? What is he doing? Is that basically he's saying, see, the point is devotion and love are connected. If you are committed, if you have love of truth, if you have love of goodness, which is what devotion is, then you're capable of loving. If all you have are these feelings like this, then you're going to only have superficial human interactions. So there is a connection between these two. So what he's saying, what Jesus is saying is that I want to show you how I love my Father. And how I'm going to show it to you, and that is this love. I'm going to show it to you by washing your feet. I'm going to show it to you by my love for you. And I'm hoping that that will teach you how to love one another. And that is the new commandment that I'm giving you. So what it is showing is that he is showing this, and he's saying, after I demonstrate this to you, you can learn this, because there is this back and forth between these two. Similarly, When you say no to this, when you say no to being good, being focused on truth, you have only random feelings. Then you are only going to have random human interaction. You're not going to be able to get here. So this is together and this is together. Next up is Joe.
I was just thinking about how this actually fits in well, I mean, really well with Stoicism as well. So think about something like your feelings and how they address feelings. Something like anger that takes you away from your nature. You would be totally on the outside of the senator. And then all of a sudden, what does that relate to? That relates to your thoughts, right? Because you're angry about something. So your thoughts, you feel like you've been harmed when you actually necessarily haven't. So then all of a sudden, what does that do? That impacts how your human interactions are. And then it forms, this also is your expressions, your actions. So like the angrier you are, you could see where if one is out of balance, you're actually on the periphery, you're away from beauty, you're away from devotion, you're away from wisdom, you're away from love. So that's just one emotion. And these are things that, again, you can start to capture a integrated way of looking at yourself, and both on a metaphysical and very physical level. That's the beauty of this model as well. Like there are logic diagrams that can be applied to this, and this is having the one that you just showed a moment ago is exactly the type of graphic. When you start to apply weights and averages, it really is. It's a really powerful tool. I remember one that you put together 2 years ago that had family and friends and economy. It was a 4-quadrant one though. This is
much better. This is
1,000 times better.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the spirit integrated. No,
right.
This is the spirit integrated with that 4-factor model in a way.
Yeah, no, it's just I just think so. I'm thinking so many things, but I want to open it up for Maritza. What are your thoughts, comments, anything? I don't know what you would like to talk about.
On this here, oh, you took it down.
Oh, you want to? Okay, sure. I'll give me a second.
Yeah, I was looking at this with the inner.
Wrong one. Just a second. It sometimes happens here. Give me a second. This one. Nope, not the right one, right?
No, there's black screen.
Okay, let me see.
It's okay, no worries. Oh, you found it.
Okay.
So I like with the inner items identified, and I really like that you highlighted that, for example, wisdom sits within thoughts. Like, it's a part of the whole, because what really speaks to me most about this diagram is that even when we are focusing in, like if we decide that we are weak in our embracing of these concept of wisdom, and we're focusing on that, there still exists the other side, love. It's still there. And then wisdom lies within thoughts. And it could be that if we find there's a piece that we don't have within that wisdom, you can come out one level higher and maybe collect something else from this like thoughts area. I was looking at it specifically for family and friends, and I thought maybe that section is more this concept of community.
Yes.
Because what is family and friends other than your community? And it's looking at it from the increasing levels. It's interesting because you can look at it both as going from outer to inner as being increasing, but you can also look at it as outer to inner as being decreasing, depending on what it is that you're seeking to improve upon or maybe to focus on. So like, for example, it's in this one, it would seem that the culmination of a sharper focus on community would then lead you to love. But it also means, because it's inside of it, it means that, through love is the way that you would find your way to a stronger community. And I really, really like the way it works. In the economy one, like you said that one was one of the hardest one, and maybe not entirely fleshed out.
True.
With the concept, goods and justice. But, it does still work if one looks at it from the perspective of, goods would be material items, and our sense of justice, as it were, in today's world is honed by those, this is the outer aspects, as it were, like, it's all the requirements placed upon us because of all the material things in the world, that we do need the concept of justice. But again, I like that it's sitting inside of the goods, which is inside of economy, because it's just a reminder that none of these concepts, the wisdom, the justice, the beauty, they cannot reside by themselves. They're just but a small piece of the rest of it. So I really like that. And for me, it just is the constant, focusing in and coming back out. And I think it's represented very well with this diagram. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. It's something that I've been happy with. I've produced so many diagrams. This is definitely my favorite one, which is much better than anything else I've done. One question I have, and then I will go to Jenny. I'm struggling with family and friends. I'm trying to figure out because it's two. I think community is one possibility. Kinship is another possibility. What do you guys think about a proper name for it? I'm trying to capture, so I'm distinguishing it from the economy. Economy is at a large scale. It is like people across all the globe, across all space, across all time, all the people. What is the system for that? That is what it's trying to answer. The family and friends, it's the close relationships that you have. So what do you guys think about good words to capture that in a single word? Rizzo, what do you think?
Well, my vote, Shrikant, would definitely be community.
Community.
That's what I would place there.
Joe, what would you call it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I really have to think about it. I mean,
Sure.
family and friends actually does. I think community is more meta, actually. So
I like family and friends, but it's too long. It's 2 words. But there is something common, because let me talk this out. Fundamentally, it is commonality of values, because the thing is, it's that, like, think of the family, okay? At least for me, it's for sure. And I think it's true for everybody. There are parts of the family that you have that are your friends, okay? That are really close to who you are, that you really,
Right.
really respect. There are parts of the family who are not that. Your friends are
Right.
all chosen, this friends, I mean, really close friends, so people whom you really care about. So it is really based, it's completely like in Aristotle's view, it is the friendship based on character, which
Right.
is being pointed to here. It is a chosen community. It is like that, okay, these are my people, my tribe, but not biologically, but based on values. That's what I'm trying to get at. And I'm trying to figure out what would be the best word to describe. Anybody else has anything? Mike, what do you think? No, nothing yet? Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Go ahead.
just again, community was the,
Community is the best one so far. Okay.
yeah.
All right. What do you think of kinship? I don't like kinship because it is actually different, it's a noun, it's a different kind of a thing than community. I think family and friends or community is the best one. Okay.
Society could be one as well.
Society is too, it's not society, because society is like everybody. This is like chosen, this is like your people that you value. Society is too large.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it is closer to the economy than kind of friends and family. But okay, next up is Jenny. Jenny had something.
Oh, well, certainly integration, right? This, you know, it encapsulates everything about integration.
Yes.
And I respect that. But I also respectfully am going to share that I have a problem with it being formulaic and prescriptive. It creates a sense of right and wrong and the idea of otherness, that if we don't follow, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but just by the creation of something so formulaic and prescriptive and based on Christian values, creates a sense of the other, right? If I don't fit into this, then I'm the other. And as far as I'm concerned, the concept of separation of church and state works for everybody, believers, non-believers, all faiths. I don't, you know, I'm not in, it is not in my view, okay, to create something this formulaic and prescriptive, although I do respect the effort of it. I think recognizing one's fallibility is key. And fallibility exists in all human, you know, in humanity. That's our one trait is fallibility. I also heard once, I don't know who said that, but I remember reading this, we are all fools. The wise person just recognizes that they're a fool. So, yeah, so that's what I have to say.
Wonderful. Next up is going to be Maritza.
I would like to respond directly to a little bit of what Jenny is saying, because, you know, Jenny, I will say to you that I myself don't consider myself to be, you know, a Christian or, you know, of a specific religious faith. So I struggle a little bit sometimes with some of the, you know, the grids like this. I have found that in this forum, many efforts are made to separate from it being a specifically religious thing. So this is, you know, I'm thinking, so this is the wrong forum. This was thrown up with the guise of being just a quick teaser for the concept of integration, but the proper introduction to this was done in a video. I missed the live event, but I watched a video from yesterday, and it was called a philosophy for life. So it was not presented as religion. Different religions are given as examples, and so what has helped me, so the formulaic aspect, I think here is a little bit softer in that this is not one must do this kind of a answer. This is more of a, what are the various components that people who seem to be striving at forward movement, you know, seeking that meaningful path, what are the components that are enshrined within that movement? What does that movement look like? So what I see presented here, and I'm sorry, Shrikant, if I'm speaking way off base, just personal, for somebody who doesn't, I don't look at this and I don't see the Gita. I don't see the Bible. I can see how someone who has very strong faith in those could see that. For me, I see different aspects of that forward movement. If, you know, I want to have a meaningful life, I don't need to have a God fear in life. I want it to be meaningful. And for me, I have a heart. I have a mind, I have family, I like art. So I'm looking at these and going, okay, if art is an aspect that'll help me find this meaningful path I'm seeking, okay, it makes sense to me that expressions and then beauty are contained within. And I think that maybe the one thing that you pointed out here that I would agree with is that when I see beauty, in my mind, I think there's many other layers behind that. And maybe that's not necessarily explicit. For me, it's implicit just from my knowledge of a little bit how Shrikant's mind works. He's not an excluding kind of personality. So in my mind, I just make assumption that there's a lot of other aspects behind the scenes here. Hopefully that helps a
I
little
even
bit.
find problematic the idea of a philosophy of life prescribed by any one person. For me, it's problematic. It could be a viewpoint, right? And I'm more of a proponent of tools and opportunities for all from which they build their own life. So anyway, that's why I wasn't even thinking of it in straightforward religious,
Okay.
terms. So anyway, just wanted to.
No, I mean, so I'll say several things. Firstly, what this is actually very different from the modern way of thinking. This is much more closer to how the Greeks used to think. It is closer. It's basically this is from a scribal era, which is very different than the modern times. And modern times, most people will think like Jenny. They would have problems with anything being said by anybody, claiming any universals. They would say that at best you can say that I have some thoughts, and that's pretty much all that you can say. And you have, okay, I feel a certain way, I take certain actions. So it's, that's the modern view. So in that sense, this is very much, anachronistic. This is like the way in which the Greeks used to think, the way in which basically time before printing, where people actually took ideas, put them down on paper, talked about it, tried to say, what does this actually mean? And engage with each other to try to figure out what that is. So that is actually hallmark of the scribal era. And then through that process, people came up with something that kind of coalesced. So this is all, the scribal movement is all about talking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this is what it results from it. Modern movement is mostly about kind of writing something and reading and then coming up with whatever conclusions. So it is very much in the periphery. So in that sense, this is scribal. What I have tried to do is I am trying to put together the commonalities that I see. I'm not religious, but at the same time, I have profound respect for religion. I try to understand what it is saying. Most people from each of the religions actually disagree with the interpretations of the religion, because most people are focused on the rituals that the religions produced. So most of them actually do not appreciate the scribal way of looking at religion, because that is very different from doing that. So this is kind of a very oddball thing. It is neither modern religious, nor is it modern non-religious. It is very much of a scribal. So it's a very different way of thinking. And we've spent a lot of time studying that way of thinking. We've done about 60 to 80 meetups on Tao Te Ching from the Chinese tradition. We've done about 40 meetups from Bhagavad Gita, which is from the Indian tradition. We've done maybe another 40 meetups on the Gospel of John. We've done a number of meetups on Carl Jung, who does a lot of work like this of saying, let's look at mythologies across cultures and see what is common to them. This is the same kind of, this is in that tradition of saying what is common to all traditions and what does it say about human nature. And this is certainly my conclusion of it. And what the way in which I present it, and I hope that my demeanor here and the way I present it shows it, is that I'm saying, this is what I think. What do you think? And the entire 52 Living Ideas is about that, of saying all of us are individually trying to learn things. We are not saying, and we profoundly respect individuals' learning. At the same time, we profoundly respect other people saying, this is what I think, to other people. And then the other person saying, I think this, I agree with this, I disagree with that. And it is through that process that we learn. So, and that tradition is also very non-modern. It is very scribal tradition. Modern things would be to get into Facebook groups and start, throwing, kind of flame wars against each other. So, which is not what we do here. So it is in that tradition. So Jenny, that's my.
I just want to add something. First of all, I respect a lot of what you said. I respect this forum. But if anyone was going to put labels on me, I'm more, which are very inadequate for everybody. I'm more of a postmodernist and an existentialist. If you were going to pick that, and that's, so yeah. So yeah, I'm not a modernist. I'm more of a postmodernist and an existentialist. So of course, but I do appreciate that you're stating it and it is what it is, and I respect that. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, wonderful. Does anybody else have anything? Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that this fits with pretty much everything in the sense that it's not prescriptive. It's an approach to self-discovery. So that, what somebody considers beautiful, it's what they, have come to an agreement, like as it's what they think is beautiful. It's not what someone else thinks is beautiful. It's the journey towards their internal center that they actually are going through, in that process that they start to understand everybody else. And I even see that it fits in an existential sense as well. When existentialism asks, what's the reason? What's life good for? And then this actually starts to allow you to answer those questions to a certain degree, because it starts to say, well, it's about beauty, or is it about it's about love or wisdom or whatever it may be. There are some basic constructs that you arrive at on your own personal basis. It's not prescriptive, but it's more of a journey of the self. That I think that's where I see this framework I see it kind of fits with existentialism in a way, and it kind of answers the why kind of question when I think about that in that sense. Anyway.
Thank you, Joe. All right, folks. So this was wonderful, and thank you so much. And I got to talk. Unfortunately, folks, I cannot stop talking about this. And I think I'm getting a lot. I think I'm able to engage just so many different topics with this. So I'm very, very excited. I'm just delighted with all the feedback, all the comments. So thank you very much. And I don't know how to pronounce. Joel? No. Anyway,
Yes.
Thank you for reading the French poem. Really appreciate that, and I hope you liked the meetup.
Yes, I did. Yes,
Wonderful.
I really enjoyed it. Everybody had like really, really good ideas, and yeah, I can't wait for the next one.
Wonderful. Now you just make sure that you've joined the 52 Living Ideas, because that's where that's our main meetup group. Just make sure that if you in meetup, if you search for 52 Living Ideas, that's the main meetup. So as long as you're on that, you will see all the meetups that are coming up.
Okay, thank you.
I want to tell you that, folks, I want to tell you that on this Sunday, we're doing a meetup on Gospel of John. We're going to be talking about Eucharist in Gospel of John. One of the gentlemen who has been studying the Gospel of John, chapter 13, is going to be talking about the chapter 13 and saying, okay, why is it that there is no Eucharist? It's there in all the other synoptic Gospels, but it's not there in Gospel of John. What does that say about Gospel of John? What is the meaning of Eucharist? In what form is it there in Gospel of John? So that's going to be on Sunday. And I look forward to seeing some of you folks from Philadelphia on Saturday. I can't wait. All right. See you folks. Bye.